Galera do Mundo das Lutas, a entrevista especial de hoje no canal Encarada é com Javier Mendes, líder da AKA, que já formou mais de 20 campeões mundiais e é um dos melhores do mundo no que faz. So Javier, thanks a lot for the time. I really appreciate it. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me.
For those who don't know, you have a YouTube channel called Javier Mendes Podcast since 2020. How much joy do you have with the channel on YouTube, putting out your opinions, your analyzing fighters and all that stuff?
Oh, it's fun. I'm doing a new one now called Javier and Mo Show podcast. The Javier and Mo podcast. It's a new one.
It's with the show, right?
Yeah, the Javier and Mo, M-O,
Okay.
Javier and Mo podcast. Yeah, because I'm here in Dubai, so I decided since I'm here, I might as well do one here. And it's a little different than the other one I do. We haven't done that one in about 2 months. I don't think we've done anything in 2 months.
What's the idea of this new channel?
It's a little bit about everything, just more life, MMA related to life, coaching related to life, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Some about the MMA world for sure, because that's what people tune in for, but want to try to switch up a little bit.
Yeah. So Javier, the most viewed video on your channel has 2.3 million views and is Islam Makhachev wrestling Daniel Cormier. Do you remember what was the most unexpected match that you witnessed in the gym?
Maybe the one that I never expected was a wrestling match or just sparring match.
Any type of
Jake Shields versus Khabib, and that was only because it was first of all Jake was above Khabib in the weight, and I normally kept it at lightweight, spar lightweights type thing, and it was Khabib's fight week, and Jake was getting ready for a fight. And Khabib asked me if he could please spar with Jake, and it was like Monday, the week of his fight, which is a no-no. But he kept insisting. So, I let him in. I asked Jake if he was okay with it. He's cool, no problem. So they sparred. So that was, for me, something that was, I never thought about that happening, especially fight week. That's crazy.
A lot of worries, right?
Yeah, a lot of worries, yeah.
So Javier, a lot of people don't know or don't remember, but you were a kickboxer before your career as an MMA coach. How important was your experience in kickboxing for your role as a coach?
Honestly, I could have done it without being a kickboxer. It did help with the experiences I had. But if you have the love for coaching, you don't need to fight. You just have to understand it. You have to love it. You have to love it. If you don't love it, I don't see success coming. Because if you don't love it, why would you go train people? Why would you spend any time involved if you don't like it? You'll go do other things. But if you love something and you stay consistent, you can become a good coach without realistically having any experience, as long as you love it and you understand it. If you do understand it and you love it, you can get around it. Your experiences do matter. They do matter, but your coaching experiences matter more.
Do you remember, sorry, do you remember the day you decided to go forward just as an MMA coach? When did you realize you would do well working as a coach? Because I also remember that doing my search for this interview, a lot of people don't know that, but you cornered like guys like Frank Shamrock and BJ Penn, pioneers of the sport, right?
Yes. But at that particular time, I didn't really go out there to become, successful and make money as a coach. It was just the gym, it was something I loved doing. It was for the love that kept me in the gym. I love the gym. I love the martial arts. So that kept me in it. I wasn't really thinking more than that. Sure, we all want to be famous. Sure, we all want to be successful. But I love what I was doing, and that was more important for me. You know, I wasn't chasing anything but the love. And then from there, then of course, then I wanted to be recognized amongst the top coaches in the world. I didn't want to be, you know, just a good coach. I want to be known amongst the best, you know, and I set that goal for myself. Once more people started coming to me, like you're saying, like BJ Penn, and then after that, then Cain Velasquez, and you know, Daniel Cormier, Luke Rockhold, you know, Josh Thompson, Kung Lee. I mean, so many more, you know, than Khabib, Islam, Usman. I mean, there's so many more that came after. But at that particular stage, you know, after the BJ situation coming around, I did start trying to become better. I wanted to, you know, be competitive with my peers. How far, I didn't know, but I just wanted to be respected.
And do you have any favorite Brazilian coaches or Brazilian teams that you admire or have a big respect?
Andre Pedneres. Always respected him from the very beginning, and still to this day, super respectful. Great coach.
Javier, is it true that are you writing a book right now? And what's the message that you want to give with this?
Yes, I'm writing a book, but the message is how I use my coaching to help people in everyday lives. And it's not about coaching fighters. It's about coaching people in lives. It's about, you know, if you're not motivated, you don't have anything that you want to do in your life. It's about finding that hot button that's going to make you get up and going to make you want to do those things, not have to do them, want to do them. So it's something more lines like that. Like if you say you want to get this job, then, you know, prepare for the job just like you do for a fight. You know, look at all the obstacles of what this job requires and prepare properly so you can go and initiate your strategy to get this job, not just go and apply for the job. You know, so there's got to be planning behind everything you do. So it's kind of like that. That's kind of what the book's more or less about. And it shows the stories of what I've done, you know, as a fighter and as a coach that helped you know, my fighters, and what I've done as a life coach, basically.
Mm-hmm. Did you felt that there's a lack of this type of knowledge for people and coaches right now, or it's just something that you feel you want to give back to the world, or both?
It's just something that I feel I want to give back. I don't know if there's anything like that out there. There might be quite a bit of it out there. I don't know. I just know that, you know, I want to use this for what I've always done, help people. I've always been able to do that. I can talk to somebody and I can analyze certain things about them that maybe they can improve on. And I'm always willing to help. You know, I'm always willing to give advice, you know, to the people I come in contact with. So that's something that I've been doing my whole life.
For a guy that trained so many world champions, what would you say they all have in common?
For me, obviously, everybody has the heart, everybody has the desire, but they all had one thing that a lot of people don't really put much effort into, and that's consistency. They're always there. They're never the ones late. They're never the ones not sparring when they're supposed to. They're never the ones not running when they're supposed to. They're never the ones not sleeping when they're supposed to. They're always the ones that are doing what they were supposed to do. All the champions I've ever trained all had the same characteristic in themselves, and they were consistently there on time. They were consistently there for their sparring. They were consistently there for their training. They didn't miss their times. They were always there.
Of course, a lot of people will read this book, but if you could give any little advice for coaches around the world, what's the path to build champions?
Well, I don't know if there's a path. I just follow your heart, follow your love. You know, what do you love about coaching? And, you know, you can find it from there. I think an example that I can probably give of someone that's following that pattern is the Fighting Nerds. You know, you see how well they've been doing in the UFC, how successful all their fighters are doing, how well-rounded all their fighters are. I think that's kind of like one of the successful paths you can look into, is somebody over there in Brazil that's going to be soon. I believe they should be producing some world UFC champions. I believe so. It's just based on what I'm seeing, you know, and how well-rounded these guys are. And I think they have a good mindset over there, and they understand everything. So basically study them, I would say, look into what they're doing because they seem to be doing the right thing.
And what do you like in particular about them? Because in some way they can train fighters inside the gym, but they are also doing a work as a marketing, and this helps the fighters to become more popular and all that stuff.
Yeah, well, that's what I was talking about here. They call themselves the fighting nerds. They're not nerds. That's just the gimmick that they use, and that's marketing, And they train themselves properly. They're well rounded. I watched, them guys, and they're good, man. They're real good. And I'm not saying they're going to win every fight. I'm just saying they're very good, and they do it right.
Is there any fighting nerds in particular that you are more curious to see where they go? Right now we have the four more famous: Carlos Prates, Mauricio Ruffi at lightweight, Caio Borralho at middleweight, and Jean Silva at featherweight.
Kyle's the one that I've watched the most. He's the one that I actually feel has the best chance. I mean, he's got real tough division, but he has a real good chance, I think.
Javier, I'm writing a piece about, in Brazil we have a lot of fans of Russian success in MMA. So I'm writing a piece about Abdulmanap Nurmagomedov. What did you learn from him and his relationship with Khabib and Islam and other fighters?
Well, what I learned about him is his love for his fighters, his humanitarian attitude, and when he coached, his military discipline. He was very disciplined, extremely disciplined, which is what Khabib to this day brings forward with him as when he's coaching. He brings that same mentality his father brought. And it's basically kept those guys together, and it keeps them working out all the time, and it keeps them close. And this is all based on what his father's brought. He was one of the greatest. And definitely one of the greatest I've ever been around. He was a great man, and it's proof in what his students are doing now, what he built way back then. And look at all the champions they're producing now. It's incredible, I'm not saying I'm not part of that, because I am a part of that, but it was I'm carrying over where he basically gave me the baton. He basically gave me all these great students to help what he already did. So he did the vast majority of the work, and I came in and I do my little bits and pieces here and there, but it was his hard work and his students that brought to the table.
I was about to ask you, how would you describe his legacy in fighting? And but as you were saying, you are like the person that is. Do you feel that you kind of have to keep this going to complete? I don't know if you consider it's already completed, the father's plan, what we call, or can we understand that father's plan, it's the whole legacy, it never ends?
His father's plan is the whole legacy. It never ends. And basically, as long as I'm alive, it'll be father's plan. As long as I'm with Khabib, and I'll be with him for my whole life. We're family, we're loyal like that. Khabib and I are. So I'm not going anywhere. Anywhere they need me, I'm going to be there with them. And I want to respect his father. So I created father's plan for that very reason. So everybody remembers who is the main person behind these guys that are becoming world champions. Is Khabib's father. He's the main one. And that's why I say that, because I don't want everybody to think somebody else did when it was his father. His father raised these fighters when they were 4, 5, 6 years old and was with them forever,
Do you have any grandchildren?
Any who?
Grandchildren?
No.
Yeah. No? Mm-hmm. But okay, so my question is, if today a kid like or maybe a young guy or girl, they don't follow Khabib's career in MMA, if they ask you today, how good was Khabib Nurmagomedov in MMA, how would you describe it?
For me, I would say he was the best ever. And not only because of what he did in the octagon, is what he's done outside. And one thing that I told Khabib, when I first met him, I said, I don't know what there is about you, but something special about you, just like Muhammad Ali. And it wasn't what Muhammad Ali did inside the ring, is what he did outside the ring also that makes him the greatest to me. And all the humanitarian acts that he's done with helping people and building mosques. And Ali was a supporter of everything, you know, everything that was right, you know. And I said to Khabib, I think there's something in it like that with you. I don't know exactly what it is. But sure enough, here we are, you know, 2025, and what has Khabib played exactly that role. He was great in the cage. You know, he retired early, obviously, because, you know, he's 32 years of age. He still had 3-4 years left that he could have done some great fights. But due to the fact his father passing away, it just was something his mother and he himself didn't feel the need to continue without his father. And that wasn't a decision that was made to me or with me, because I'm not the family. That's between them. So for me, him never really losing around, never really losing to anybody, you know, maybe a couple rounds here, and how he dominated everybody and how he kept improving. He's the greatest of all time for me.
Javier, we all know that Khabib is retired and that won't change. But my question is, if it weren't for the promise he made for his mother, or what happened to his father, do you believe that Khabib would still be fighting? And I'm asking this because sooner or later Islam would fight for the belt, and I like to believe that Khabib would maybe defend the title a couple of more times until Islam got his chance, and then he would vacate the belt just to complete the mission. Does that make sense?
100%. What he would have did is, if he was still fighting, he's 36 now, so I think he would have retired by now. But had he continued to fight, what would have happened is he would have went up to welterweight, which I know he would have won the welterweight title. And then I believe, you know, Khabib's so great, I believe, and this is just my belief, I believe that he could even went up to 185 and won that title too. So there would have been no issue with him and Islam. Islam would have just took over the lightweight division, and Khabib would have moved up to welterweight. So no big deal. If that was to ever have happened, I don't see that Khabib holding him back. Khabib would have moved up a weight division and allowed Islam to fight for the lightweight title.
And correct me.
That's what I feel.
Okay. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I remember before Islam fought Oliveira, you said something that Islam was like a better version of Khabib. Now that he has, is that
no,
accurate?
he's more complete, Okay. Not a better version of Khabib. There's only one Khabib, just like there's only one Islam. No, he was more complete than Khabib. So he basically did one thing Khabib never did. He listens. Khabib listened to me 50% of the time. 50% of the time he did what he wanted. Islam listens to all his coaches. Me, Khabib, Magomed, Seifu. He listens to all the coaches. He's very, very intelligent and very coachable. Whereas Khabib, you know, sometimes Khabib will listen to you, sometimes he won't. I mean, sometimes he wants to argue with Dana White. Sometimes, you know, he wants to show he's Muhammad Ali in the stand-up. So, yeah, no, Khabib listens to what he wants to do sometimes, and sometimes listens to us. But that's okay, because me as a fighter, when I fought, I listened to nobody. I just did what I wanted. So I understand that mentality, because I was from that mentality also, where I just did what I wanted to do. I never really listened to my coaches, corners, so advice. So I get it.
But do you think that this is more because of the personality of yours and Khabib, or maybe that's a signal that this can prove that you can be a good coach?
I don't know. I just know that you know, I couldn't understand why I didn't listen to my coaches. I listen to people in the audience sometimes, and I listen to their advice, and it works. You know, so I don't really know why. I wish I could tell you the right answer, but I don't really know. I just know I didn't listen to my corners. You know, I didn't listen to them. I just go out and do what I needed to do.
And you know, Javier, in Brazil, every time a Dagestan fighter shows up and start to shine in MMA, people from here, they start, oh my God, what these guys have, that they are always showing up, always with great results and all that stuff. What would you say makes a Dagestan fighter so hard to beat?
Well, they're well-rounded. They have everything. They you know, when Khabib first came to me in 2012, they didn't have the complete package. When they came to me, they basically got what we had to offer. They took it back home, and they started getting coaches in the striking area. They started putting the plan together. I mean, if you go to Dagestan, a lot of what they do is what we do at AKA now, very similar to each other. And we borrow off each other because we're one in the same team. AKA is Nurmagomedov, Nurmagomedov is AKA. So we borrow off each other. We see what we have, and we help each other out by implementing what makes it work for all of us. So it's the same formula over there. The only difference is in Dagestan, they're more dedicated over there. There's like 50 to 1 for every one fighter we have in the US at AKA, there's 50 over there in Dagestan, hungry, motivated, dedicated, you know, highly talented and skilled fighters waiting, you know, to get their opportunity. They have a ton of fighters there. And I said this a few years back that people don't know it, but you know, the best team in the world is in Dagestan, Russia. You know, and sure enough, we're here now. And look at the figures. Just look at the champions, and you cannot dispute what I'm saying. Dagestan, Makhachkala, Nurmagomedov gym is #1 gym in the world. #1. Look at the champions they have. There's too many.
Okay, so Javier, now talking about the lightweight champion, is Islam Makhachev already in training camp for his next fight?
I don't know about for the next training camp. I know he's training, you know. Don't know anything about fights, and like I've always talked all the time, you know, until the UFC announces, there's no point in me talking about anything, because if the UFC does not announce a fight, there's no fight. There's no fight. So I generally, you know, let's just say I knew, but I don't. But if I knew, I wouldn't say anything anyways, because it doesn't make sense, because the UFC hasn't announced it. So I don't know when his fight is going to happen. I do know that he's training like he always trains. You know, he's helping his brothers out, you know, train like they always do. These are different kind of guys. They're not the kind of guys that have fights and then all of a sudden they take 2 months off because they don't have a fight. No, they're in the gym. They're always training. So you can always see Islam always training. Yeah, sure, he likes to go do his outdoor stuff, his fishing and horse riding and dirt bike riding. He loves that stuff, but you're always going to still see him training. You know, he is always training. These guys are so close knit. It's a bond that will always continue to rise, and that's why they're so good, because they're together all the time. They're always sharpening each other, like iron sharpens iron. That's what these guys do. They have everything they need. They have all the coaching they need. They have all the fighters they need. And me, you know, honestly speaking, they need me only be more for support. You know, and Khabib needs me to help him become a better coach. But realistically, you know, I can only mentor him, and that's all they need. They have everything else they need. But I'm responsible for Umar, Usman, and Islam. Those are my 3 guys that I'm responsible for. But of course, I can train all the other guys too. But those are the main ones. So when there's a camp, I'll be in there with those guys. Whenever those guys have fights, I'll be in camp.
You always say that you have a zero influence in the matchmaking, yeah. But as an experienced coach, if Islam stays at lightweight division, what do you think happens? Because we have now Topuria, we have Oliveira wanting the rematch, we have Gage. Do you have any feeling what's right, what can happen? I know maybe it depends if Belal wins next week or not. Islam is going up in the division, but as an experienced guy, do you have any feeling what can happen?
Anything could happen. Anything you just said, any of the above can happen. I don't know. I mean, I just know that, you know, it's been like this since 2012 with Khabib's crew. I've never been involved in the matchmaking. Not saying I haven't been involved in the AKA side, because I have. Not all the time there either, because they had management deal with their fights. But now I have myself and Ron Kessler. We have fighters that we manage. So we're definitely involved in who they fight, when they fight. We're definitely involved 100%. But with the other guys, you know, that have managers, no, I don't get involved. They don't. And if they don't call me, I don't call them. you know. And with Team Khabib, they never called me to ask me, what do you think about this fighter? What do you think about that fighter? No, they just tell me who they're fighting, and we go to work. That's it. And that's the way it's always was that way with my other guys too. When they were like Cain Velasquez and DC and all those guys, the same thing. I would get told who they're fighting, and we just train for them. That's it. But I wasn't asked. But again, and I have to say again, it's not that I don't want to. It's just I wasn't asked. And now I do give advice to my guys.
Okay.
Guys that are managed by myself and Ron Kessler.
But so do you allow yourself to have preference? I mean, this guy would be more challenging, or this guy makes more sense because of the size of the fight, or you just let it flow?
No. If I have the opportunity, I'm gonna say my piece because I'm really good at it. So yes, but I don't interfere if I'm not asked either. So I do the same thing with the fighters. If they want to train with me, and I will train with them. If they don't ask me, I don't train them. I just go out and do my thing. So that's something I've always done. So it is. I don't go ask the people, do this, do that. No, if they don't ask me, I just do my thing. But if they ask me, then I'll give my opinion. But again, you know, like I said, no one's asking me, so they're not asking me. I'm not voicing my opinion.
If I ask you right now, what do you prefer for the future of Islam? What would you say?
Well, I would say what I would always say is whatever Islam wants, because that's what's going to motivate him. So it isn't what I want, it's what Islam wants.
Okay, and Javier, what people don't know about Islam Makhachev that they should know?
What they don't know about him that they should know, and they're probably figuring it out now, he's really funny, really crafty in his delivery. It's like he says certain things that are very catchy, and he's a trickster, but you know, you don't really notice it because he's so good at it. You know, like was this one saying, you know, send them to Dagestan 2-3 years and forget about it. I mean, that became a big hit for him with people, and he's very crafty with his words. You know, very subtle though, not like Khabib, who's very send me location type thing. You know, change your face. You know, sunglass guy. I mean, Khabib has a lot of them, but Islam is very crafty too, but a different approach. But he's very smart, very, very smart.
When we think about Islam Makhachev as a welterweight, what can we expect?
Champion.
Just champion. I mean, like a performance, stronger, more.
I would think he'd be super strong because he's fairly strong. He's super strong, really, really strong. And if he went up to welterweight, he would put on, you know, more muscle and do more of the strength and conditioning to put on a little bit more muscle, because he can do that. So he would be super strong, super strong, super dangerous. He would be a force to be reckoned at welterweight. But let's see what the cards play. Let's see what the UFC, you know, comes to the table with, and what everybody agrees on.
Do you have official prediction for Belal against Jack Della Maddalena?
I would never root against Belal, so obviously he's my guy. No, I'm going with Belal. You know, it's one of those things that you know, we always have to do. We have to go with Belal. I cannot go against him. I can't even fathom the idea of going against Belal. No, it's Belal.
And Javier, considering what you saw from Oliveira since he fought Islam, he fought Dariush, Tsarukyan, and Chandler, do you think he would give Makhachev a harder fight in a rematch?
It's possible. I mean, you know, Charles is a crafty veteran. He was one of the great ones, you know, and he's still in the game, and you can never count him out, you know. The only person that actually took him out recently was Islam. No one else really has. You know, he's given everybody fights and beat mostly everybody. You know, with Sarukin, if I remember correctly, that was a very close fight. So you cannot ever count Charles out. So you can't say anything other than be prepared for war with him. You better be prepared for war, because if you underestimate him, I'm sorry, but he's still good enough to beat anybody. So you can't ever underestimate Charles Oliveira, because he is world class, and he could easily be a champion if the circumstances are right and the opponents are right.
And what's your opinion about Ilia Topuria moving up to lightweight?
Obviously it's something he wants to do. He's really, really good. I mean, he's the only one that's ever knocked out, Max Holloway, and very impressive. I've said it that I believe he has the best boxing in the whole UFC division. So, and he has good wrestling. He's good everywhere. He's good everywhere. He's smart. He's a good fighter. He's a good one. He's definitely destined to be one of the greats himself. Not yet, but he's knocking on that door.
Okay, and just a couple more before I let you go. We have a lot of fans of Cain Velasquez in Brazil. What can you tell us about Cain, his current situation, his future?
Well, what I can tell you about Cain is obviously the state of California decided to give him 5 years, which he did 3.5 years. So he's gonna do maybe 1 year in the state prison now, and they got it wrong. He shouldn't have got any time. Yeah, there was things he did that were wrong, but when a father is out protecting his children, we go crazy, and he lost his head, and they did a test on him. It's called EEG, which is a test of your brain function, and they found that he had zero impulsivity and zero control. So that meant that, like when you have road rage, you're on the car out there and something enrages you, they go crazy. Well, he's that person that had zero control and zero thought process. So basically it's something that you can work on, and he's been working on it, and it's something that he should not be sentenced for. It should be something they should fix, because what he did was wrong. No doubt was wrong. But how many of us would have thought anything different if he just went after the alleged person that was his child? I would have killed the guy myself personally, but I wouldn't have did what Cain did. I would not have done that. I would have done it more secretly. I would have made sure I wasn't around, and I would have killed that guy. You mess with my child? I'm sorry. It's a whole different ballgame. You're not going to touch my children. So Cain Velasquez was not thinking when this happened, and the court system got it wrong. And as far as how he's doing in there, I knew he would do fantastic, because I heard that all the people, the sheriff's department that works in the jails, the guards and everything love him, and everybody gets along with the inmates, get along with him. So I knew that would happen. Cain Velasquez is the most beautiful, genuine person you could ever meet, who cares about everybody's willing to help anybody. So I know in there he's safe. It's just the thing that hurts me is that his child's court case is coming in June, and the boy that was allegedly doesn't know where his father's at. Why can't his father be with him? And then he's going to go to court. His little boy's going to go to court against the child molester allegation. And where's his father going to be? In jail? That's the part that gets me. It's like he should be at home, and he should have served enough time. But apparently that's not the way the system works. And thank God for the judge that he got was a very caring judge. And believe it or not, that judge basically was supposed to retire that Friday, and he did the sentencing on Cain on Monday. So 4 more days, this judge was going to retire. So had they pushed that court case further down the line, who knows what would have happened? Because this judge, I was told, was in tears almost, handing Cain the decision, because he didn't want to do that. He did not want to do that. And the prosecutor is a piece of because he wanted to give him 30 years, and I hate these kind of people that don't look at what's right, what's wrong. They just look at further their career. Like he's a menace. He wasn't a menace to anybody. If Cain Velasquez, and all the people that know him will vouch for him, your child is safe. You are safe with this guy. If anybody you want to protect your child or yourself, is Cain Velasquez.
Okay, so Javier, I would like to hear from you. As a coach, did you ever have a fighter that made your work as a coach harder? I mean, an opponent that was harder to figure it out and train for and study. Do you remember any kind of fight, or maybe a fight that you won, your fighter won, and you got more proud?
No, the fighter that was the most difficult that I didn't have the puzzle to get was GSP. GSP was the most difficult guy for me to have a fighter to train to fight him. We fought him once with John Fitch, twice with Josh Koscheck. All 3 times I felt we were the underdog going into that fight, because this guy was so good everywhere that, we had a chance, but I felt we were the underdog because he's so difficult to prepare for. So yes, GSP.
And what is Javier Mendez' top 5 MMA fighters of all time?
My top five all time is obviously Khabib, John Jones, GSP, Fedor and Anderson Silva. And there's so many, but those are the ones. And Fedor only because of what he did as a heavyweight, how he wrecked everybody. And then, of course, at the end, he fought a little too long, but I still put him in there. And I'm missing people like Demetrius, little, Mighty Mouse. I mean, there's so many great ones, but those are the ones that stick to my mind.
And what, by the way, what's your take on what's happening in the heavyweight division? Why do you think it's taking so long for Jones and Aspinall to fight?
Because that's what John Jones always done. He always takes his time. Nobody tells him when he's going to fight. He's done this his whole career. When he's ready, he's ready. And if he's not ready, he's not going to let anybody push him. He wants to make sure he has everything dialed in quickly, and he's going to go on his time. He's always done that. And that's why he's as great as he is. He doesn't risk anything. He does everything to make sure that he's mentally and physically ready for whatever's ahead of him. And if he doesn't feel he's not ready, he's not going to take it. He did that when he was supposed to fight Vitor Belfort, and then Vitor got hurt, and then Chael Sonnen comes into the picture, and all of a sudden the show got canceled because John Jones would not fight Chael Sonnen. He wasn't ready for Chael Sonnen. And Chael Sonnen, as you know, and we all know, was an easier opponent for him, but he didn't feel comfortable with that fight, so he rejected that fight. So obviously, I don't know John, but I respect him highly, and I think he's a great fighter, and this is one of the reasons why he doesn't like to lose.
I agree with you, but at the other hand, is like doesn't seem that Tom Aspinall is like not wasting his time, because if he has the chance, it's the biggest chance of his life. But he's such a talent, right?
Yeah.
Should be a deadline or maybe something, no?
Well, it's up to the UFC. It's up to the UFC what they're going to do. I mean, Aspinall is not the champion. He's the number one contender, because if he was the champion, he could care less if he fights John Jones. He's the champion, but he wants to fight John Jones because he knows it's not the real title. He wants that opportunity to fight for that real title that he believes he can win, and he very well could win. But this is John Jones we're talking about, and he's calling the shots. He's saying, when I'm ready. If you want to be ready when I'm ready, fine. If not, no problem. And then how are you going to strip John Jones of the title in a situation like this? It's kind of hard to strip him of the title when he's not saying he won't fight the guy. He says, I'll fight him this time.
And last thing, Javier, it's just a quick play. I will say, I'll ask you a question and you name the fighter that fits better in what I'm asking. So first, who's the most disciplined fighter that you ever seen in the gym?
That two of them, Umar, and actually Khabib.
Khabib. Okay. Who's the funniest one?
DC.
And which fighter is the best coach or corner?
Khabib.
Which fighter surprised you the most? Like the one that arrived in the gym and maybe you didn't notice how far he would go in his career?
DC. I didn't know DC was going to be a world champion when he arrived. I thought he was going to be a great coach, and then it wasn't until like a month later that I realized he could be a great fighter too. DC.
Who's the next big star out of AKA?
There's a Theo Haig. I think could be great. He's like 6-0, 6 finishes. I think he's fighting in the Contenders series coming up. And the other one that I haven't given up on is Muhammad Alarak. He's from Kuwait. He's a great talent, and he didn't quite materialize on his last fight when he's fighting for the MENA championships, but he'll rectify that, correct his mistakes, come back stronger. So I would say those two are ones to look out for.
Which two fighters did the best sparring in the gym?
Cain Velasquez and Daniel Cormier were always fun to watch.
And last one, which one do you miss the most to have in the gym?
Khabib.
Okay, Javier, thanks a lot for the time. Sorry if I have so long interview, but
No problem.
it was a pleasure to talk with you. So many things to talk about, and I really appreciate the time. People in Brazil admire your work a lot. Thank you, man.
Thank you. All right, bye-bye.
We appreciate it.